Happy Thanksgiving, friends, neighbors, and loved ones. This is Steve Sparks with another edition of Celebrating Democracy. And boy, do we have a lot to celebrate today on this Thanksgiving. I'm sitting here in Little Whale Cove, Oregon, thinking about all the things that I have to be thankful for on this morning. And before I get into another story about the Sparks family legacy, taking you back to that time so long ago, I want to just talk about the things I'm thankful for, and they all connect to why I'm doing this series. It connects to celebrating democracy. It connects to our freedom. It connects to the things I'm thankful for about empathy, compassion, the humility and humanity that we've all experienced as Americans for 250 years. And in my lifetime, starting with the 1946, right after World War II, and especially love. And the most important thing is how we care for each other in our communities all over America. And I live in Lincoln County, Oregon, and it's one of the most loving, caring communities I've ever lived in. And I feel so good about that, feel safe. I'm so thankful for that, and all my friends and colleagues and neighbors who really care for each other and love each other. I'm very, very thankful for that. And as a quick review, I started doing this series on Veterans Day because I woke up one morning and I thought, we better go back and take a look at what America looked like around World War II and before and after and in my lifetime. Maybe there's something that the younger generation and even our older generation, my generation, will hear and think about that'll help us understand the roots of our democracy. And the one thing I see that's very, very consistent is we never get through any challenge, any crisis, anything, unless we do it together. And not just for some of us, but for all of us. So with that, I want to take you back in time. I want to go back to when my father just completed boot camp in the United States Navy in San Diego, California in March of 1937. And I'm going to do a blog post on this day so you'll see a couple of pictures of the USS Tennessee, BB-43. It was a big battleship, and that was my dad's first duty station right out of boot camp. And so when I looked at that picture, I found one with my father, imagining my father aboard that ship, and I started thinking about what it might be like for him back then. So let me share this with you. Following boot camp in 1937, Vernon was standing next to the big guns of the USS Tennessee battleship. The young seaman Sparks was preparing for his first duty. The Tennessee would sail off in March 1937 to the Philippines, with a stop at Pearl Harbor. This would be the beginning of Vernon's naval career, and World War II on the horizon, unbeknownst to him in that moment. Vernon was a seaman. That is a military rank used in many navies around the world. It is considered a junior enlisted rank, and depending on the navy, it may be a single rank on its own or a name shared by several similarly junior ranks. So with that, I want to talk about Vernon now and what he was doing at that time. Vernon was a rugged teen in St. Paul. At 17, he was more than ready to get the hell out of the shithole neighborhood where he grew up. Vernon dreamed of joining the Navy to see the world. He thought of freedom, freedom from being poor and hungry every day, freedom from hate and anger, freedom from fighting to survive as a kid. Vernon was tired of feeling trapped in a family preoccupied with so much emotional pain that there was little time for love at home. Walking into his home was like stepping into a minefield, Vernon imagined. America was in deep depression. It was a very tough time. But for Vernon, he was a fighter, a warrior. Vernon found his calling. He would serve America. There were no hugs or a welcome voice to be found, only sadness and anger. Usually his sisters and mother were yelling and complaining about their father. Al was all too often drunk in a bar after his daily job painting somewhere near by in town. Al didn't know from one day to the next if he could work to put food on the table after spending much of his pay at a local bar. Sometimes he wouldn't get home for a couple of days. Vernon's last Christmas at home in December 1936 was a fucking disaster. He mused with a little sadness, but with excitement about his future as a seaman aboard the USS Tennessee. Vernon was a Navy man now. He loved it from the get-go. Why would I ever go back to St. Paul, he told his buddy Stryker, as they downed a few beers and shooters at the popular waterfront bar, the Sailor's Hole, where sailors and Marines hung out. It was near the Tennessee and other warships. They wouldn't dare miss curfew. After all, San Diego was beautiful in March. On this afternoon, it was 70 degrees and sunny. The sailboats were out in the bay. The ladies of San Diego wore shorts and tops in the warm, balmy weather. Vernon and Stryker could only gaze and dream of Hawaii and the Philippines. Later in the evening, before Liberty curfew at 12 midnight, Vernon and Stryker walked up the bridge and asked, "Permission to come aboard, sir?" And Sparks and Stryker saluted at attention so proudly and walked aboard. Both men would make America and the world proud, so proud forever. Honor and duty so important to both as they served America. The USS Tennessee sailed away early that morning, destination Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. They would cross the equator en route. This was a special Navy ritual, a rite of passage. Vernon never looked back. He and Stryker would learn to be the best of the best seamen and hardened warriors at sea when America needed them the most. And just a note, and I'll leave you with this, crossing the equator was a ritual. It was a way for sailors to be tested for their seaworthiness. When a ship crosses the equator, King Neptune comes aboard to exercise authority over his domain and to judge charges brought against the pollywogs that they are only posing as sailors and haven't paid proper homage to the god of the sea. So with that, happy Thanksgiving to all. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I know we will, and we wish you all the best during the holidays. Talk to you next time.